Check 1 2. Can you hear me? I was definitely not talking to myself for for 20 minutes before forgetting that I had to click the go live button. It definitely didn't happen. If you can hear me, say something in chat, please. And if you're watching this VOD in post, thank you so much. If you're watching this VOD in post, feel free to skip to when the timer's over, because right now I'm just setting up. Hello, Digi A. Hello, Echo Emils. Welcome. I was truly talking to myself for like 20 seconds. Before realizing I had to click go live on YouTube for anything I was saying to be televised or whatever this is. So I just started it over and tried again. Hello, Wolf Bruce. Welcome. I'm gonna make sure I have everything running in the background. But if you can see the screen, let me know if you have any answers to the prompt of the day. Was it a fruitful chat? Well, I mean, it was a conversation with myself, which is always fruitful, right? So what, Echo Emil, so what is the Black Flag Project? I'm a bit new. We're going to discuss it once we get the timer all the way down, but as a quick summary, it's basically a playtest core game, I guess would be the description of it, that branches off of 5th edition. Created by Kobold Press, who are major publishers of third-party content for 5th edition D&D. This was made on the wake of the OGL drama as an option should the SRD ever disappear, so to speak. And since it's gone Creative Commons, they're kind of going in their own direction and seeing what they can do to kind of remake the foundations of 5th edition, which is interesting in itself. Idriju, welcome. Hello, it has been a while that I catch you live. Hope you're doing well. Hello, welcome back. So good to have you here. I know this is difficult for people who live in Europe, if you guys are, if you're living in Europe. This is what you guys just had. Daylight savings. I don't know if you're from Europe, but I know the European watchers just had daylight savings, so it's officially 2:30 a.m. for them. That sounds like time too late to be watching this. So again, if you're not watching this live, that's okay. You didn't really miss much. Hello, Agricola. Welcome. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Echo. Wow. Okay. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for tuning in. That's a huge compliment. And if you ever feel the need to go to sleep, the video will be up in the morning, so no stress on you. Okay, I'm pretty sure I have everything I want open. And we should be ready to go very, very soon. So if you haven't gotten your snacks, mango cheesecake in chat. Oh my gosh, I'm so blessed that you're here. Thumper, it's only 1:30 here in the UK. It's so way before bedtime. 1:30 is bedtime. If 1:30 isn't bedtime, I don't know what is bedtime. But anyway, we're going to jump into this. Welcome everyone to coverage of the Black Flag playtest. Now, Project Black Flag, again, for anybody who is unfamiliar, this is a playtest packet released by Kobold Press with their new project in terms of revamping the core of a game very similar to 5th edition. Let's go through a couple of things. Hello, Neutromancer. Welcome back. We're going to go through a few things just to acquaint everybody to what we are looking at. Let me see if I can pull it up over here. Okay, let's put that there. Great, wonderful. And this here. Okay, cool. Everything working behind the scenes. Come on. Not yet. Give me a second. One more second. As I load this up. We are professional here. We are truly professionals. No, that's not the one. That's not the one. Who knows, man? Okay, well, I guess I can't show you Chrome. Oh, because it's minimized. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I just revealed a whole lot of stuff. That's fine. We are professional YouTubers here. Thank you so much. Okay, great. Okay. Project Black Flag is something made by Kobold Press, which you have to know. It's a codename for a larger series of efforts made by Kobold Press, yada yada, based on, with the goal of publishing a new core fantasy RPG based on 5e Dungeons & Dragons 5.1. Now that includes, it's basically revamping the base. The original concept of Black Flag when it came out was that should the SRD disappear from player access, so to speak, because everything was kind of up in the air during the OGL drama times, this was going to be a replacement for it that not only allows for new content to be made on its foundations without having to rely on the SRD, but also backwards compatible and playable with any of the original 5e material, as well as anything published by Kobold Press, which is a huge third-party publisher for 5th edition. Since SRD 5.1 came out, now they could just revamp, they don't need to revamp everything. They can take what they want from the SRD 5.1 and then touch up things that they would like to see changed. And that's kind of the goal here. They're basically saying that because the official 5e books are eventually no longer going to be in publication, this will be a possible replacement should something ever happen to 5e. All of this is playtest timeline. They're basically going to release all of these, and right now we're in March. We're going to cover playtest packet number 2, Spell, Luck, and Classes. Then we'll go to peek at April, the Monster Vault preview, and then a Kickstarter in May, and then another one of Clerics and Rogues in June, and then Gen Con live community testing in August. And that's kind of the timeline for now. How in-depth this is going to be varies from PDF to PDF. We covered playtest packet 1 last time we streamed this, and we had, a couple mixed reviews about the direction it was heading. So they did get some feedback, and this is what they said. Hello, stream. Who did I miss? Akila, welcome back. Rico's Postmodern Life, hello. Jason, welcome back. Phil Kearney, cheers. Niv Nov, stream, yes it is. So this is what they learned from the playtest packet number 1, which is quite a bit of what we covered. Some lineage and heritage options seem overpowered, underpowered. I think this is the bigger problem. We want heritage options represented differently. Basically, my biggest complaint about playtest packet number 1 was that it just felt like it was the base classes, but like rearranged in the same way you would move furniture around in your house for a different feel. It didn't feel like they were innovating as much as they were just kind of scrambling things and putting them in different places with the appearance of being new. And that's what I kind of struggled with. It's going to be a challenge moving forward for this playtest to properly separate itself from the tenets of 5th edition or the foundations and design of 5th edition in a meaningful way that is fun and interesting and improved, while still staying backwards compatible with everything that 5e has already published, which means that a whole lot of the core concepts can't be changed, and there's a lot they can't touch. So this is going to be a lot of picking and choosing what exactly they can revamp without ruining their compatibility with 5th edition, which is what oneD&D struggled with until certain steps were taken that they can just do whatever they want now, and they have no intentions of really being backwards compatible. You ready to let go of PC alignment? Discarding alignment, yeah, that's fair. You don't want to choose between ability scores, increases in choosing a talent. They did change this in playtest number 2. We're going to go into this. I did read playtest packet ahead of time. I read this ahead of time just because I wanted this stream to be more concise than the other ones, because I feel like just live reading this isn't the best way to give proper feedback, besides giving my like YouTuber pog reactions. I'm hoping for this to be some sort of meaningful dialogue. Some talent options seem overpowered, underpowered. Again, that's just balance stuff, and that's it. There is going to be something interesting in playtest packet number 2 called luck, and we're going to be breaking down the specifics of this. This is, I think, the most interesting thing that's come in playtest packet 2, which changes the whole... it's way more interesting than inspiration, at least. Inspiration was kind of boring, but simple, like easy to understand. There's something about its simplicity that was really good, but I like what luck is trying to do, and I enjoy that. Changes to classes, we'll see. They have fighters, and they have wizards, and those are the kind of the big changes that we're going to go into. Cool. Okay, well, with that... Echo Emil's... Yeah, go to sleep, man. It's 2:30 for you. Go to sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. Gotta read it adjusted before giving feedback. Right, that's proper. So I wanted to do my due diligence and review this before we needed to check it out on stream. So let's get to it. Okay, play test packet number 2. Okay, so again, the goal of this is to continue being backwards compatible with 5th edition, which is tricky. The way they define backwards compatible with 5th edition is that you can play 5th edition characters and core fantasy role-playing characters within the same game, and technically it should still work, which is interesting, but that's like saying that Marvel and DC characters can be in the same comics. Like they're fundamentally different in terms of their power levels and how they're written, but it's neither here nor there. Luck is going to be something we discuss. Inspiration is gone, and do not constitute 5e feats. You can no longer use any 5th edition feats with any of the Black Flag content because they're diametrically different now. Now, let's talk about luck. Every PC has a special resource called luck. Can I zoom in on this? Just a little bit? Cool. Which can be used to influence the result of any ability check, attack roll, or save you make. So, if you think of luck as like a pool, like a bag of coins, I think that's the best way to look at it. You collect luck throughout your adventures, and you can spend them pretty liberally until you run out and gain them again. So just think of them as like tiny little bonuses to what you're rolling. When you make a d20 roll, you can spend a luck point to improve it by 1 point. So spending 1 luck point will increase your d20 roll by +1. Spending 2 will be +2. Spending 4 will be +4, etc., etc. So you can say, so it says right here, if you have 4 luck points and roll 13 on the die, you can choose to spend 2 to make it 15. You have to do this before the GM declares whether the roll succeeded or failed. It's kind of here nor there. Sometimes you have no choice but to know. And they don't affect natural 1s and natural 20s. So think of it as like in your pocket having a +1, +2, or +3 that you can spend onto these rolls to improve them, which means more people are going to be succeeding more often. So the question to follow this is, how often do you get luck points? So here, actually, there's the third thing you can do with luck points. Basically, you can spend 3 of them to roll a d20, to re-roll a d20. So you can spend 3 to kind of get advantage, so to speak. But basically, it doesn't say anything about choosing your roll. So technically, you just re-roll the d20 and you take whatever you roll. So I have a couple notes on this. So basically, 1 luck point equals +1 bonus to a d20 roll, which can stack. And you can spend 3 luck points to re-roll, which is technically not advantage. You're just rolling again. It's more like magical guidance, I suppose, from Sorcerer. So already it's more interesting than inspiration, which barely gets used in any games as far as I know. So the question now is, how many luck points can you have? How many can you use? And how often do you get it? So gaining luck points once per turn. When you fail an attack roll or save, you gain 1 luck point, which to me is wild, right? Because if you're a fighter, you could, if you miss 3 attacks, you get 3 luck points, which I guess is good because you're missing out on a whole turn of damage. But that is an incredible churn rate for luck points in terms of how many you can get per turn. I think 3 on once per turn. I'm so sorry. You get once per turn, so you can gain that once per turn, which is not bad. Honestly, that's a pretty decent pace. Let me actually highlight that. Let me put that on highlight because I totally misread that. Once per turn, if you fail an attack roll or save, you get 1 luck point, which is, good because it's a +1 on a future roll. This is similar to the failing upwards method of PBTA games or other games where they reward failure in giving you more fortune towards the future, which is useful. The GM can choose. This is like normal inspiration. When you do something good, they'll give you 1 luck point, or you could just miss a tree and get 1. I mean, which is weird. The problem I see with this is that, what's the upward limit? 5. The upward limit is 5 luck points at any given time. So my immediate gut reaction is that, hey, we're about to enter into some sort of boss battle or a boss room or a dangerous dungeon. Let's all attack some trees until we miss and then fill up our luck points, right? It's kind of the bag of rats problem where if anything scales with missing attack rolls or missing saves, then you could just kind of spam that in the background and gain that. And by the rules as written, you can gain them. The GM would kind of have to adjudicate, hey, what's a meaningful roll, right? These should be meaningful rolls that have meaningful impact rather than waste rolls. But, I don't like how this lets you game kind of luck points before every big combat, where you're walking into every difficult encounter with 5 luck points. And I think that's kind of silly. And it says a PC can only have maximum of 5 luck points. If they have 5, we gain a 6. They must immediately roll a d4 and reset their luck points to the die result. I don't see the point of this. Why would gaining more luck spill over and reduce you possibly down to 1? That seems dumb, right? I feel like that seems silly. So they're basically it's. Why don't they just say you can't gain any more? I don't really understand why they say you just can't gain any more than 5. Is there something that can be abused, or like if you have a particularly vengeful DM, if you have 5 luck points, they'll just grant you 1 luck point and you'll have to reset it back to a lower number? That seems like a silly thing, but make sure you use it often so you don't risk losing it. There's no real risk of losing it because if you have 5, you just have to spend it. There's no risk, so to speak. But yeah. Yeah, I think this is valid. By the way, these colors on these all these colors on these highlights don't really matter. Yellow highlights is me just reminding myself to bring it up during stream. Purple is, I thought it was particularly interesting and might dwell on it a little longer. I believe a green highlight further down is something I liked, and then a red and an orange highlight is something I didn't like, and then gray is like confusing or misleading or something like that. That's it. There's no real balanced things to these colors. It's just guides for me. So overall, I like luck more than I like inspiration. I just think it needs a couple more rulings to be less gamey and less of something to be collected before every big encounter. So it just encourages you to use it. But like, if you're at 5, you're always going to use one. There's no, like, if you, like, let's put in an example here. You have 5 luck points. You fail an attack roll, and you know in your head, right? You know when you fail an attack roll, you're going to get a luck point and you'll probably lose all your luck points. So in that moment, you say, oh, I'm just going to spend 1 luck point to bring me back down to 4. And then since I still failed, I get 1 luck point back to 5. It seems pointless. Like, why enforce that? That's just more words. People are saying more words to get to the same number. I think it's silly. But I do like the system more than I like inspiration. This is actually a really pretty cool like house rule that I could implement someday. Like in normal D&D games. I dig that. But, whatever. Character classes. So that's it for luck, which is a pretty short talk. We're going to talk about these. If you're familiar with D&D, none of this is very new here. This beginning stuff. Progression table, exactly the same. First level to 20th level, exactly the same. You could use milestones or experience. Proficiency bonus, I believe, exactly the same. Yeah. Hit points and hit dice, the same as D&D. Proficiencies, the same as D&D. Fighter uniquely gets now a choice of strength save or dex save for their save proficiencies. Now, I will say that D&D 5th edition balanced save proficiencies intentionally, in that dex, con, and whiz are the most common saving throws, and strength, int, and charisma are the rarer saving throws. And every class would get one common save and one uncommon save. So fighter originally was strength and con, strength being the uncommon save and con being the common save. But if you go con and dex, suddenly you're getting two very common saving throws, and that's very strong. And I don't know if that's balanced. I don't know if that's balanced. Unless they intend to rewrite monsters to do more strength saving throws or more int and cost saving throws, that was a very intentional choice to make them have a weak and a strong saving throw. So I don't know if I agree with this unless they plan to rework monsters from the ground up. But that's a very nitpicky thing. Starting equipment, feature description, subclasses are all exactly the same. Like the core foundations of D&D classes from 1 to 20 are pretty much rock solid. So we're going to go into my new changes of each of these classes, and the first is going to be fighter from levels 1 to 8. There are many ways to build a fighter, but at the end of the day, your talents shine brightest in the heart of combat. Whether your fighter is an archer, wrestler, knight, or general, your class options are designed to make you the best at dishing out damage with your weapons of choice. And this is more flavor text. There's something called the Spellblade subclass that we're going to talk about soon. That's just the Eldritch Knight. We'll get there when we get there. Yeah, Nutrimentor says maybe strength will be stronger. Hopefully. But they'd have to rework the entire monster manual to do that. But, you know, if anyone is good at making a huge tome of beasts, it's Kobold Press. So I'll give them credit where it's due. All right, class features. This, I've already said it. Dex saving throws are way more common than strength saving throws. So in a 5e environment, dex saving throws are a much more optimal choice. You were forced into strength originally. None of this has changed, which is great because I don't need to cover it. So this feature, Last Stand, has replaced, this feature has replaced a Second Wind. Instead of the bonus action healing 1d10 plus fighter level once per short rest, when you take damage, that would knock you down to an HP less than half of your hit point maximum. You can use your reaction to expend one or more hit dice up to a number equal to your PB, which is 2 to 6. Immediately roll any expended hit dice. You regain HP equal to the total sum of all dice rolled plus your con modifier. But you can only use this once per long rest. So, fighter hit die is 1d10. And actually, you could use a hit dice you get from any class, theoretically. But assuming a 1d10, if you spend 2 hit dice, you'll be getting a 2d10 plus 2. Which is good. Which is solid. And if you're higher level, say level 13, you could spend 5d10 and get 5d10 plus 5 HP back, which is a good amount and in the heat of battle, really important. So this is good for one-off big fights, but in a situation where you're taking more than one short rest, this might not be... This will last you only so long. I like this because it's kind of dramatic that you can heal up this much so quickly. And I like the cost risk benefit of if I spend hit dice now, I'll gain less than if I regain it during a short rest. But yeah, I think it's an interesting change. And I don't knock them for doing it. Did I write that? Yeah. Replace the second wind, reaction versus bonus action. Oh, well, an important thing here is that it frees up the bonus actions. And we'll see what they use the bonus actions for later. And yes, that's exactly what I wrote. Cool. Next is martial action. So this is going to replace fighting style. And I believe there's only 3 martial actions. 4 martial actions. 4 martial actions. What I forgot to mention right at the top of this is that it's really, it's certainly a statement to release fighter and wizard before oneD&D do. Because fighter is the quintessential warrior and wizard is the quintessential mage. The Kobold Press, by releasing these first, is basically saying, hey, we have a good idea of what they should be, and we don't need to reference oneD&D as to what direction you guys are going, which is a pretty big deal. That said, we'll see if they pull it off and and or if they eventually see oneD&D's fighter and be like, wait, that's a better direction. But we'll get there. Martial action is basically something that modifies every single turn of your fighter, and it plays into exactly what items you choose to use. The first one is aim, not to be confused with aim from the rogue. When you use a ranged weapon as a bonus action, you can, as a bonus action, you pick a target and your first attack roll against them gets a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus. So it says here double your PB for your first attack roll. You always add your PB, so when you double it, you're just doing a plus. So at level 1, you would be adding +2 to your attack roll as a bonus action. So this is like archery, but the archery fighting style, but it spends your bonus action and it costs, it spends your bonus action and only works on the first attack roll. That said, it improves as your proficiency bonus grows. So when your proficiency bonus is +3, you get +3, at +4, it's +4, etc. Interesting. I don't think this is bad, mostly because your bonus action has been freed up. You no longer have second wind that will spend your bonus action. So if you use this every single turn, then you will get that bonus on your first attack roll. But if your fighter eventually opens up more bonus action options, this isn't exactly mandatory. It's just pretty good. The parallel to this is Quick Strike. No, I lied. The parallel to this is Wind Up. As a bonus action, this is for two-handed weapons or versatile weapons with 2 hands. You take the time to increase the effectiveness of your next weapon attack. When you wind up, pick a target within 5 feet of you, and that attack gets a bonus equal to double your proficiency bonus. So this is the same thing, but for two-handed weapons, it's literally written exactly the same as aim, except for this is for ranged weapons, and this is for two-handed weapons or versatile two-handed wielded weapons. I think it's good. It adds to the choice of, do I want a bonus on my first attack or do I want to spend my bonus action on something else? It is kind of simple, and I guess that's the intent. It's a very flat bonus, and it's not a very interesting choice. It's almost certainly optimal if you have nothing else to do with your bonus action, but that's neither here nor there. Now, the counterpoint to this, instead of focusing on a ranged weapon or a two-handed weapon, you could go with Quick Strike. Now, Quick Strike, you have to use 2 weapons, but you can make an attack as a bonus action with a light weapon you are holding. And with this, you add your ability modifier to the damage of this attack as you would with a normal weapon attack. Basically, they're adding this sentence in to clarify that differently from 5e, they will have that bonus damage on your bonus action attack. Bonus damage on the bonus action attack, yeah. And if it has thrown property, you can choose to throw the weapon for this attack. Now, if I had the choice between doubling my PB for the first attack roll as a bonus action for two-handed weapon or ranged weapon, or getting a whole nother attack, I'd probably choose the whole nother attack. First of all, that's just more interesting. And secondly, 3 attacks often does more damage than 2, barring the PB bonus, actually. Which is good. 2-weapon fighting is actually, like, legitimately good with this. The problem is, and maybe the more astute minds here, I'm going to zoom in on this just so you guys can read it. the requirement is holding 2 weapons. And as a bonus action, you can make a melee attack with a light melee weapon you are holding. So you can just attack with the same weapon 3 times. Like, if you have multi-attack, you could go attack, attack as your attack action, and then bonus action, attack with the same weapon, right? Am I crazy? Like, you don't need the second weapon. You only need the second weapon to allow you to make that third attack. Is that clicking? Is that... Because there's no mention of offhand, there's no mention of other weapon. You could just use one weapon 3 times with a multi-attack. So if you have a really cool +2 magic weapon that happens to be light, if you want to attack 3 times with it, just hold something else in your other hand. It could be a great axe, it could be a crossbow, it could be a club. It doesn't really matter. Because you're just going to attack with the magic weapon. There's no point in having 2 weapons. So that's like the writing flaw in this. It doesn't really make sense to me. The second weapon is a distraction. You wave it over your head while you attack with the better weapon, which is funny. But that's the most immediate flaw I saw reading this one. But you know, that can go into feedback. The next thing we can go through is guard. Guard is the last option for martial action. As a bonus action, you raise your shield to intercept incoming attacks. When you use guard, select one enemy creature within 5 feet of you. That target has disadvantage on the first attack roll it makes against you or an ally within 5 feet of you before the start of your next turn. Honestly, pretty good ability. But if you think of it as only a self buff, as a bonus action, the next attack against you from this creature near you has disadvantage. Pretty good. It starts getting a little finicky though when you try to help an ally. So what you need to do as a bonus action is select an enemy creature within 5 feet of you. If that enemy creature attacks an ally creature within 5 feet of you, then it has disadvantage. So the enemy creature has to be within range of you when you use the bonus action, but after that it doesn't really matter. You can go wherever you want. They have disadvantage on an ally within 5 feet of you. So the ally has to be within 5 feet of you. So first the enemy creature has to be within 5 feet of you, and then when they attack, the ally has to be within 5 feet of you. Which is funky. It makes sense, I guess. Like logically that makes sense, but having to be within 5 feet of 2 creatures to make this work is a whole lot of wiggling, I guess. But that's it. That's all for the martial action. So that replaces all the fighting styles. There are no longer any more fighting styles. And yeah, they're not like inspiringly interesting. What did I write here? Yeah, very simple, number focused, nothing too exciting or innovative. I think this is all very par for the course for what's already in D&D. This is wild to me. This makes 2-weapon fighting very good. But, you know, whatever. Thumper, we're going to get to Battle Master maneuvers later. Those are the more interesting ones. And I have my comments on those. Anyway, Action Surge. Exactly the same. Nothing's changed. They have not improved the wording at all. That is the vagueness of, does Action Surge double your bonus action? Which is silly to me because that's the perpetual newbie question. Does Action Surge give you another bonus action? It doesn't, but they haven't improved the wording. Anyway, Discipline is your subclass. ASI has changed. So when you have an ASI, you can choose from a talent, which is basically a feat, from the martial talent list. So you're limited only to the martial talents, which is the martial feats, because you're a martial character. Or you can increase your ability score by 1. It's no longer 2, it's only 1. So I'm assuming the goal in this, and I'm not gonna call it that green because I don't know how I feel about it yet. But can I? Oh, I can here. Nope. There. The intent here, I suppose, is to balance all of the feats to an ASI +1. So it has to be as valuable as a +1 ASI. We'll see if they are. But no longer can you get multiple scores very high now that you can only increase them by 1 per ASI. Oh, it's and. Thank you so much, Nutromancer. It's and. So you always get to +1. Interesting. So you always get to +1. Oh, wait. So nothing's changed. I'm dumb. Oh, I'm so dumb. Okay, now that makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Nutromancer. So you always get a +1 ASI, and you get to pick from the martial talent list. And I believe there are martial talents that give you a +1 ASI. So you can get a +2 ASI. Okay, so it's exactly the same. That's so good. So bottom line, every talent is a +1 ASI guaranteed. And if you want, you could forego that talent to get a +2 ASI. Cool. Thank you so much for the clarification. Multi-attack is exactly the same. And disciplines. Now we can talk about Spellblade. Spellblade is the Eldritch Knight, so to speak. So it's the martial fighter that also has the small castings of a wizard. So they have cantrips. You can learn 2 cantrips of your choice from the Arcane Circle. Arcane Circle is your it's basically a spell list. There are 4 different arcane circles, I believe. Oh no, for the there's 4 different circles. One is arcane, one is primordial, which is basically like animal stuff. One is primordial. I just said that. One is arcane, which is magic stuff and like tangible things in this world, so to speak, which is like elemental stuff. Yes, elemental stuff and forces like gravity are arcane circle. Then there is Divine Circle. Divine Circle is all the holy stuff. Primordial Circle is all the beast stuff and nature stuff. And then I believe Weird Circle, WYRD, is the extraplanar stuff that is not elemental. So like summonings, necromancy, shadowy stuff, that's all Weird Circle. So the Arcane Circle is very specifically like elemental spells. And or things that make sense on the worldly plane. There's also something we should notice here. They use terminology that says rings. Rings are... the best way to describe rings is that it's replaced the word like first level or second level spells. Now it's first ring, second ring spells, which is good because it was so frustrating to say that that second level spells are gained at third level. Or 7th level spells are gained at level 13. That makes no sense. Like, at least they turned the terminology to something that's more reasonable, which is ring. So first ring spells are gained at first level. 5th ring spells are gained at level 9. I like it. New terminology is good. Now they have here, the only big change in this is instead of giving you... at the 3rd level, instead of being able to pick from the wizard spell list, now it's just the Arcane Circle spell list. And you can pick from these specific schools, which is, I believe... Was it always Evocation? I actually have no idea. Let me check. 5e Eldritch Knight. Were they always able to choose from... Evocation? Is that right? Someone in chat will know the answer to this before I do. Oh, it is. Look at that. Eldritch Knights have always been able to choose Abjuration or Evocation. Cool. And all of this is exactly the same. Truly nothing different. This is interesting. Instead of Weapon Bond, instead of Weapon Bond from Eldritch Knight, which lets you teleport your sword back into your hand, which was cool, but ultimately not very impactful combat-wise. Now, when you hold your enchanted weapon, it functions as a magic weapon that gains +1 to attack rolls and damage rolls made with it, which is neat. And I don't know if this number goes up at further levels because this fighter only goes up to level 8, or at least in this playtest. What I wonder is that if the weapon is already enchanted to like a +2 weapon, right? If it's already magical to a +2, does this add on to the +2 and make it a +3? Or does this downgrade to a +1? It's unclear because this doesn't specify like non-magical weapon. This just says like any weapon you use is imbued with the enchantment of a +1. So this can get pretty ridiculous if it stacks, which would be neat. So that's all I was wondering for this. Expanded talent list. When you get a new talent, you can select that talent from the martial or magic talent list. So the Spellblade uniquely gets access to the magic talent list, which might be neat if they want to spec more into magic rather than martial, and I appreciate that. And multi-attack is basically the Blade Singer multi-attack, where if you use an attack, you can replace one of those attacks with a cantrip with a casting time of 1 action. It's very much, I believe Tasha's Blade Singer has this ability, and the original Eldritch Knight used to have bonus action attacks. No, bonus action cantrips, I believe. So this is better. Ultimately, I believe this is an improvement on the original. Yeah, it's an improvement on the original Eldritch Knight, only in that the attack economy is way better, and you get a +1 to attack rolls and damage rolls. But we don't know anything past level 7 on this. Now, my major gripe with this new fighter is the Weapon Master. The Weapon Master is basically the equivalent to the Battle Master, in that they get a whole lot of cool maneuvers. In this version, this isn't really important. They get 3 martial weapon proficiencies that they will. Basically these weapons are called mastered weapons, and they can be used. And you can reroll their damage, which is kind of okay. Wolf Bruce says as a magic weapon. Basically, it's unclear if it replaces or adds on. Instead of maneuvers, we got stunts, which is not the best replacement name. I'm gonna be honest. When I think stunt, I think like a showman or an acrobat, right? But if you want to be like an old dojo master and you want to be a weapons master, I wouldn't call what they do stunts, right? I wouldn't call it stunts, to be honest. It's just a funny name. Anyway, you get stunt points. Stunt points equal to PB +1, so you get 3 at level 1, and then when you get to level 5, you get 4, etc., etc. And every time you get a new stunt, you get to replace an old one. It only says you get a stunt if your choice is level 7. I don't know if they'll get more later, but I'm sure they probably will. And you can only use 1 stunt per turn. I guess this is important, so let me highlight that. Were maneuvers only once per turn? I actually have no idea. I've never played one. Yeah, Jason, I agree. I like the sound of ring better than spell, better than level, because just the terminology of level was confusing. Ring is not only more thematic, but easier, less confusing. Anyway, these are the stunts you can get. This is specifically a 2-handed weapon that deals slashing damage. Does this include longsword? We don't know. When you deal damage with a weapon attack, you can also deal additional half that amount of damage to a different target. I think they had something like this in 5e. And I want to see if they clarified something, because I wrote it in gray because I wasn't sure. I wasn't positive. Okay, sweeping attack. Yeah, so the damage of sweeping attack, right? The damage of sweeping attack was just a roll of the superiority die. which was a 1d8. These don't have superiority dice. So this is just straight up half the damage. And it says half the amount of damage. Yeah, when you deal damage with a weapon attack, you also deal the additional half that amount of damage to a different target. So what immediately comes to mind, and what probably comes to mind for you guys, is Smite. Right? Yeah, Neutromancer, that's exactly what I'm saying. Being level 3 doesn't give you level 3 spells. That was always so confusing. You could say being level 3 gives you second ring spells, and now that makes sense. Or a little more simple. But just saying, we're back to Arcing Strike, just saying that you added half that amount of damage to a different target is crazy, because that includes all of the riders on that attack, which includes Smite, which includes Sneak Attack dice, which includes, actually a two-handed weapon can't be sneak attacked, but it doesn't matter. If you're adding any bonuses to that attack, suddenly half the damage goes to the person next to you, which is crazy DPR wise. I think they got to clarify it's a damage dealt by the weapon or something along those lines. 5e has always had a problem with delineating what that meant. Or they could just leave it like this and just pump out massive amounts of damage, and that'd actually be kind of cool. But, you know. Cheap shot, bonus action. No. Cheap shot is a bonus. I shouldn't use the word bonus. Cheap shot is an extra unarmed attack, which is nice. Hobbling strike, you can forego damage on an attack to reduce the target's movement speed by half. That's pretty cool. Especially if you only do like 3 damage, you must say, might as well just hobbling them instead. Make it count. Make it count is so interesting to me. When you take the attack action, you can make a single weapon attack with a +10 to the attack roll. And you can no longer make attacks, even if multi-attack gives you more, right? So you can have one attack with a +10 to the attack roll, and if you have any riders like Smite or anything, that's huge. That payoff is huge. But also, this doesn't limit your bonus action attacks. So if you have, and if we can scroll up again to Quick Strike lets you attack as a bonus action, you could still do that. So you could technically still get 2 attacks per turn, one with a +10 on it, and one with a light weapon. So that's an idea. And this is a big bonus to get every single turn at the cost of 1 point. Parry has not changed. It's pretty good. You reduce damage. Riposte. If someone misses you can attack them, which is okay. Run through. Run through is exactly the same as Arcing Strike, where with a piercing weapon that doesn't have to be two-handed. Oh, here. This is fantastic for sneak attack. If you deal damage with a weapon attack, deal an additional half of the damage to a different target you can see within 5 feet of the original target. So a target next to the one you're attacking takes half the damage. So if you're dealing 1d8 plus 5d8 damage, which is 68 total plus dex to an enemy from sneak attack, you could just half that, which is like 3d8 plus half your dex, to the person next to them for 1 point, which sounds great. It's just a lot of damage, and at least there's a cost to it. 1 point. Shifting, you get to move. If you hit somebody, you get to move anywhere around them, basically, which is very funny. This is hilarious if you're fighting something gargantuan. So, if you attack something that's like 35 feet by 35 feet and you hit them successfully, you can shifting strike and go all the way to the other side of them, which is like, I don't know, 40 feet of movement. As long as you're still within 5 feet of that target, you can do that without spending any of your movement. Also, anywhere within 5 feet of the target is also above them or below them or anywhere you want to be. It doesn't stop you from like, there's no limit on like where you can go, I suppose, because I guess maybe move implies movement that you have. But I think it'd just be very funny if you attack like a Tarrasque, and then shifting strike lets you just run on its back, get all the way to its head, right? So this is very funny to me. Can you run through a dagger? Yeah, of course. Piercing damage, right there. Also, run through doesn't require being next to them. So you could like chuck a dagger 60 feet and you hit them, and then the run through will hit the person next to them. Yeah, so like if you want to 1.5 times any of your sneak attacks, just get like a longbow, and this will do it. You add an extra, basically an extra 2 or 3 d8 on your attacks, but you know, and you don't even have to hit the second creature, right? You don't even have to hit them. If there's like a tank with 25 AC, and then a little weenie with 12 AC right next to it, if you run through, you could just shoot the weenie, break through its AC, and then just do the half of that damage straight to the tank. But yeah, this is just funny edge cases that 5e has more or less entirely ironed out, but just there's a little bit of wording that needs work on these. And sweep the leg is incredibly good. Requires a melee weapon. When you hit somebody, they get knocked prone, or they succeed in fail strength save or fall prone. D&D also had this. I forget which trip attack. It was trip attack. Yeah, trip attack knocks them prone. So this is trip attack, but it only works on melee weapons, and no longer works with ranged weapons. So, again, these are cool, right? These are neat, but I think it's about time that abilities like these become available to the rest of the fighters. Especially in 5th edition, the Battle Master is far and away one of the better subclasses among the group. I know now it's outclassed by Rune Knight and Echo Knight, kind of, sort of, but a lot of these are very fun and build out your kit really well. And if only we could have these on other fighters, I think get very interesting. But you know, maybe that's a talent somewhere. On what DC sweep the leg? Strength save. DC is 8 plus PB plus your strength or dex modifier. You choose which. Same thing with maneuver. And I believe that's it for fighter. Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, they get champion fighter's ability at level 7. So champion's gone. Yeah, so just in general, I liked... What is this? Weapon Master? I liked Weapon Master way more than I liked... way more than I liked Spellblade, I think it was called. And... more or less, fighter is almost exactly the same. I think a lot of these wordings are not clear enough and can be abused if read the wrong way, but otherwise it is generally the same. I don't know. I feel 2 different ways about this. Just give me a second. Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. There are more options, but there are more ways for fighters to deal big damage with these abilities. And I believe with the, what was it, fighter actions, martial actions? Basically the martial actions plus make it count makes it way easier to hit people. Because it's, if you bonus action get that PB bonus, your attack roll is 1d20 plus PB plus PB plus strength plus 10. And you could do that at level 3. Which makes it super duper easy to hit. So I think what they're doing here is they're doing their best to make sure fighters land their attacks, because not landing your attacks is not fun, I guess, is the idea here. So, oh, plus luck points. You also have luck points. So 1d20 plus PB plus 10 plus strength plus any luck points to hit, which is good. Yeah. Again, this is playtest. There's things that they can fix. I'm just pointing out the things that seem strange. Anyway, we move on to Wizard. I was handed a cookie a few minutes ago, which is why I had that pause. But I don't want to chew into the camera. I mean, into the mic, so I'm trying not to eat too much of it. Okay, with that, let's move on to Wizard. Wizard has not changed much. I'll give him that. Wizard is pretty much very, very similar. The changes are more to spells than they are wizards. I highlighted the word ensorcelled because I think it's a cool word, but they're basically the same things. Nothing at hit points has changed. Proficiencies haven't changed. Equipment hasn't changed. Arcane spellcasting hasn't changed. You'll notice that these subclasses that the wizard gets no longer focuses on a specific school of magic, but rather focuses on how they, or what magic they specialize in. An important note for spells is that rituals can no longer be cast as not a ritual. They have to be cast with their full length of time, but they don't take spell slots, and there's a different amount. There's a certain number you can learn per level. So they've been entirely separated from the normal spell list. You gotta share the cookie now. Listen, man. I wish I could. I wish I had enough for the class, but faithfully and truly, I only have this one cookie, and I can't give it to all of you, so. If you have a favorite cookie, feel free to drop it in chat, I guess. And you can think about it. Or after the stream, run to your nearest deli and buy yourself some. Anyway, your spell book is exactly the same. Preparing and casting spells is exactly the same. They use a spell ring lingo to specify. I don't know if this was in 5e, where it takes a minute per spell ring for each spell on your list. I don't know if anybody's ever paid attention to that. So I think it would be just so much better if you said at the end of a long rest, your list is prepared. That just makes more sense to me. Less calculating exactly how many spells you have to prepare. So imagine doing the math for this. It's like 9 minutes plus 9 minutes plus like 7 minutes plus 5 minutes plus 5 minutes plus 4 minutes plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. It's dumb. Just round it, call it a day, and go. And spell casting ability is exactly the same. Ritual casting, again, you do not need to prepare ritual spells. Never needed to, and they do not expend a spell slot to cast. But now you cannot cast them quickly, so to speak. Whatever their time listed is, that's how long it takes to cast them. And some spells are no longer ritual spells, which we'll get to later. Spellcasting focus has not changed. Learning spells has not changed. Copying books has not changed. So that's all stuff that I'm not going to cover because you can just read it in your D&D handbook. Arcane recovery has not changed. Still getting used to this lingo. Magic sense is actually new. Your growing field experience allows you to perceive nearby. Think of it like divine sense. As an action, you can open your awareness to detect magical forces until the end of your next turn. You know the location of any creatures with the ability to cast spells, ongoing spell effects, and magic items within 30 feet of you. So this is interesting to me. I'm just zoom in on this. This is interesting to me because if you scan an area, like any room, any zone, you'll immediately know every spellcaster, right? Every spellcaster in the room will be known to you. So if someone's hiding or someone's a powerful mage and, they're unassumingly dressed, you'll know they're spellcasters. There's kind of like an aura of magic around them. Also, anyone equipped with magic items, you'll immediately recognize as somebody who's like significant enough to have magic items. That said, this works inversely. Anyone can detect you as a wizard. Anyone can recognize you as a magic caster, immediately recognize you as a threat. And there's no way to know who's casting this. There's no way to detect if someone's magic sensing you. So this is kind of like a wizard radar, so to speak, of being able to detect who's kind of arcanely significant in a room, which is interesting from a roleplay standpoint, and decent world building in that somebody who is magically inclined is immediately recognizable to other peers of the magic world. Yeah, you don't know how powerful they are, but if there's 30 people and one person has a magic item, they're the most powerful dude, right? You can't hide magic items here. You can't hide them under your sleeve or under your cloak, or like there's no hiding. Unless you're wearing a foot of stone, an inch of common metal, or a thin sheet of lead. People are gonna know. You can wear a lead suit like Superman? Yeah, sure. That's your answer. So it's like Divine Sense, except I believe this is like infinitely more practical in terms of scoping out what's the most dangerous thing in the room. And from a DM standpoint, it'll be so hard to hide things. So hard to like trick people into seeing like somebody's unassuming. If like they meet an NPC and they're like, oh, I magic sense them, right? And you learn that this regular old farmer has spells, kind of spooky. But you know, this is actually like a cool feature in that it gets you thinking that way. That like, how does this affect how how mages interact with the rest of the world, or how they recognize their own kin? I like that. I don't know if this is like practical or like a good way to do this, but I like the energy of this, and I think this is the first thing in like this whole document that lets me think this way. That like, this tells me more about the world by reading it. Anyway, Arcane Tradition is subclass, which goes on 3rd and 7th. So they've changed the 2, 6, 10, 14 system of gaining subclass features. And then they can only pick from the magic talent list in terms of their the feats they can take. Now, Battle Mage is basically War Wizard. This is the first subclass that they have here. And War Wizard, if you remember, was not in the original Player's Handbook. The original Player's Handbook only had class-related subclasses, and this kind of as a statement is saying, hey, we're getting rid of class-related, school-related subclasses. This is a Battle Mage, and we'll see some relations to the War Wizard as we read. These mages only focus on ways to enhance their power, to destroy foes, or defend their allies. In terms of the feats they can take Martial. So this is kind of the counterpoint to the Spellblade, which can also take Martial or Magic talents. This is a Magic talent this is a Magic class that dabbles in martial fights. Spell Ward is like a pseudo rage, I guess would be the best way to describe it. When you cast an arcane spell of the first ring or higher, you weave a protective ward around yourself, and your AC increases equal to your PB, so that's 2 to 6. And this stacks with mage armor or whatever, and you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, which is cool for a mage, because that mitigates a whole lot of damage you're taking. Now, this only stays up as long as every turn you're casting a first ring spell or higher. So every level you gotta expend some sort of non-cantrip spell to keep this up. Now, as written for now, if you somehow gain an ability that lets you cast first level spells at will, you can keep this up for the whole time. You know, no questions asked. As long as you don't cast any other spell, you can keep casting this. But otherwise, if you don't have a feature like that, you're spending a spell slot every single turn to make sure your ward stays up, which is good defensively, but you know, this will have to drop eventually. But you can use this number of times equal to PB, and you can also use it when you finish a long rest. I don't mind this. I think this is an interesting choice. This is one of those things where you got to make a choice between saving your spell slots or keeping yourself defended. And it's a good counterpoint to rage, so I appreciate that. Yeah. Jason says DM can't have that person with disguise self trick the players. Yeah, exactly. You could just magic sense that and be like, oh, that's the disguised self. Well, dang. I guess it is, you know? It's kind of a bummer. But I wonder how Magic Sense interacts with like Disguise Self, and that Disguise Self puts like an investigation check to see if it's real or not. But I guess this just figures it out. That's kind of the it's kind of the unique boon of being a wizard. You can just kind of smell magic. Technical caster, make sure you're not hurt by your own spells. Cool. Contingency plan. When you miss a spell attack, you can use your reaction to redirect it towards a new target. That's awesome. I like this. This is good energy. Where it's like, I'm so good at hitting people with my spells that even if I miss, I still hit somebody. I like that. I appreciate that. Cantrip Adept is another subclass which is entirely homebrew. It was in the Kobold Press's book, Tome of Heroes, and the goal of putting this in the playtest is to say, oh, look at all our old material, still works for this new game. I've never read Cantrip Adept before. I don't know what it is, so I'll just take their word for it. This is somebody who I'm assuming is very good at casting cantrips. So, a limited amount of times per day. You can change the casting time of any arcane cantrip. Arcane is an important word now. It means things. An arcane cantrip to a bonus action, which is cool because you can then cast a another cantrip as your action. Cantrip Polymath. Any other cantrips you learn are considered arcane circle cantrips, so they benefit from whatever boons you get from this subclass in particular. And you gain 2 extra cantrips, so you have more cantrips than everybody else. Cool. Potent spellcasting, you add your proficiency bonus to 1 damage roll of any arcane cantrip you can cast. Very much Eldritch Blast energy, where all of your cantrips do a little bit more damage than everybody else. And that's all we get for that. It's like 3 lines. It's a very simple subclass, at least level 7 and earlier. And that's it. So that's all for magic. And so as you could tell, like, Wizard did not change much. It truly didn't. Wizard is about the same. Besides its magic sensibility, they do everything exactly the same. The only thing that's really changed is how ritual spells work, in that you can only learn a certain amount of them, and they can no longer be quick casted. And arcane circles, which we're going to get to. If Cantrip Adepts could disguise their ability, that would be cool. Okay, good night, Jason. See ya. Yes. That would be kind of neat. If Cantrip Adepts, their magic is so humble that they can't be found in Magic Sense. I kind of like that. That's some good energy. Talents or feats. Again, you always get a +1 ASI with any of these, so they come with that. Here's the first feat, and this is an arcane. No, magic. This is a magic talent. So once per long rest, when you fail an Intuit or cost save, you can just re-roll the save and take a new result. It says here, you must declare your intention to re-roll after you learned you failed, but before any of the effects take hold. So you're not allowed to learn what the spell will do to you before deciding to re-roll. And that's something the GM has to be mindful of. Like, obviously, if you get hit with a fireball, you know what's going to happen, but for more complex effects that are like secret or cursed, and the player doesn't know yet, they're not allowed to say after you've explained the ability that they want to reroll. Also, this lets you repeat saves on spells on magical effects that don't have repeat saves. This basically adds a repeat save on top of it. It doesn't say how I painted this gray because I don't know how this interacts with spells that already have a repeat save, like Hold Person. Does Hold Person have a repeat save? I think it does. Like, if it already has a repeat save, does this do anything? I don't know. Is it 2 repeat saves? I have no idea. Yeah. I will say, with Magic Sense, they did change Detect Magic. So I'll show you what that looks like now. Soon. Mental Prowess is basically if you want a +2 ASI, you can just take this and get +1 ASI on any of these abilities. Ritualist lets you learn ritual spells, and you choose your circle of magic. Again, those circles of magic are Arcane, Divine, Primordial, and a Word. And yeah, you just slowly learn them, which is, you know, whatever. We don't have the full list of... We don't have the spell lists of the circles of Divine, Primordial, or Word. We only have Arcane, so we don't know how good this is looking into the other 3 circles. School specialization, basically you choose one of these schools of magic, and you can add a +1 to your attack rolls and your DCs, which is good. Very, very, very straightforward. It's just +1 to attack rolls and +1 to save DCs, and that's basically it. I guess you're the gold. Oh look, this is the old wizard feature that the golden time spent copying it down is halved. This is very specifically for wizards. Huh. Artillerist is one of the martial talents, so this is only available to martial classes, and I think it's kind of dumb because you have a strength score of 13 or higher, and all it does is you ignore the loading property of weapons. And I guess you're good at siege weapons, which your DM will definitely give you. Definitely give you /S. So it's a ranged ability. It's a ranged talent that requires a 13 strength, which logically, sure, you need to be strong to pull back a bow or load it fast or whatever. But like having to spec into both strength and dex, kind of silly to me. I'm not a big fan of this talent. Hand to hand gives you proficiency in unarmed strikes, which is no longer a given. The logic they say is like basically not everybody knows how to throw a punch. We can't assume everybody has proficiency in unarmed strikes, which D&D did. D&D assumed everybody has proficiency in unarmed strikes. Now they say that, hey, wizards can't punch. That doesn't make sense. So now there's a feat that gives... Now there's a talent that gives you proficiency. And this is okay, and this is okay. And then physical prowess is a +1 ASI on top of your +1 ASI to a total of +2. So that's the feats. Oh, there's more feats. And here, Touch of Luck is the only technical talent. We don't have technical classes yet. We only have Wizard and Fighter. So this is the benefits. When you gain a luck point as a result of failing, you instead gain 2, which is silly to me. Hey Del, welcome. So this is silly to me because there's active penalties to going over your luck count, right? We talked before that there's this weird rule in the luck section which says that if you have 5 luck points and you gain 1 more, then you lose a random amount of luck points. So why would gaining 2 luck points, as long as that rule comes into play, you're risking losing luck points. But I can see why people would take this. It seems, compared to the other ones, it seems generally optimal because you can gain luck points pretty fast, which means a +2 on attacks or saving throws, which in 5e is very rare. Bonuses to attack rolls and saving throws are notably rare, to the point that archery, which adds +2 to your ranged attacks, is like super premium fighting style. It's a very, very good fighting style. So Touch of Luck seems just like an optimal choice quite often. If you're looking for something to just take, this is pretty good. It's an all-around very good thing in the luck system. Chat's discussing if punching is something that everybody can do. Okay, spellcasting is all up in the air. This is all just an idea, they say. So they basically say here, they have no idea what it's going to look like in the final version of the game. This is just an idea. They put a cool visual on like how they explain the rings, where the 9th ring is just the biggest spells and is the biggest ring. First ring is smaller spells and the small ring. I like this. I like all of this. That's fine. The ones that we learn about in Circles of Magic is Arcane Circle. Again, this is material reality like heat, space, gravity, and I believe elemental magic, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, elemental energy. So 5 senses, elemental energy, mechanical aspects of spellcasting. Divine Circle is holy stuff. We don't really need to explain this. Radiant or necrotic energy and things that heal and harm, or define the deity. Primordial Circle is modifying biological characteristics, interacting with plants or beasts, or replicating natural phenomenon like tidal waves or maelstroms or firestorms. No, that's not a natural phenomenon. Earthquakes. There you go, earthquakes. And then weird. How do you pronounce this, chat? WYRD. Weird Circle. So this is extra planar stuff. So like Fae and shadows and devils and demons. I'm assuming all of this falls into weird, which makes me think that this is going to be the shortest list because there's not too much of that, to be honest. It doesn't also fall into necrotic energy. Thumper says it's pronounced like weird, and I'll take your word for it because I don't know better. These are all the same. Spell slots are the same. Casting spells and higher rings is the same. These are spell classes. That's all the same. Known spells and prepared spells are unchanged. Cantrips are unchanged. Rituals, again, still do not expend spell slots, but they cannot be upcast, and they do not have a free option and a spell slot option. They are always free no matter what, and they only have 1 casting time. All of these are the same. This famous sentence of you cannot cast a bonus action spell that spends a first ring spell. Basically that limits you from casting a leveled spell as an action. Are they going to call that ringed spells now? Ringed spells instead of leveled spells? I don't know. Non-cantrip spells. But the wording is still as ambiguous as ever. What they did that was interesting here, which is not mentioned anywhere else, surprisingly, is that reactions cannot be taken on your turn. This is a huge ruling that they're just kind of throwing out here. Since reactions are not taken on your turn, first of all, in 5e they are, so this is a big change. Casting spells as reaction does not interfere with the number of spells you can cast on your turn, because you can't take them. You can't take your reactions on your turn, apparently. So, interesting to know. And the rest is the same. Cubes, cylinders, durations, components, all exactly the same. Nothing's changed here. Targets, same thing. Clear path to target, targeting yourself, all the same thing. Spell attack rolls, don't look at this. This is not important. Whatever. In the spell list, so this is an example of the arcane spell list. If you're curious in looking at what spells are available, specifically the arcane casters, I'm assuming some of these will overlap with the other circles of magic, but we're not sure yet. We're going to scroll down, and these are spells that have changed. Oh no, these are ritual spells. So these are the arcane circle ritual spells. So these are spells that you can take as rituals and will not consume spell slots. So, oh, that's true. Neutromancer says no counterspelling the counterspell. That's true. You can't protect your spell with a counterspell anymore. So comprehend languages is no longer a ritual. So you always have to spend a spell slot to cast comprehend languages, which I think is right, which I think is fair, because it makes no sense to me, and this was something in D&D that I always had a problem with, it makes no sense to me that there was a first level spell that lets you understand every language. That's crazy to me. I felt that was such a premium, and the fact that you could cast it for free made it so that knowing unique languages was relatively useless compared to it. Detect magic is also... Yeah, detect magic is basically magic sense for people who aren't wizards. You can't cast it as a ritual either, so you always have to spend a spell slot to do this. Mage armor now adds a flat +3 bonus to AC, which I think is basically what it used to be. Yeah, before it was like 13 plus dex, which is an improvement from 12 plus, which is an improvement from 10 plus dex, which is no armored people. But also this benefits people who have a natural high armor class that are already better than 13 plus dex. This will stack on top of it. Just a very gentle rewording. Magic Missile. I don't really know what's changed about Magic Missile. I could not tell you, but this is just an example. And the final thing in this PDF is that Create Familiar is exactly the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's a ritual. But now you decrease your hit point maximum by 1 because you're paying in blood to have this familiar with you, which is cool and neat and just a little bit more thematic than it used to be. And when you want to put it away and hide it, it just melds into your skin, just kind of into your arm or your side or your back or something, and it just sits there until you need it, which is funny to me. And fam, that's it. We managed to do it before 10 p.m. Listen, this was better. This was better than the first packet playtest. I felt the first playtest was a bit scatterbrained. They had a lot of things they wanted to ship, but none of it seemed too crazily thought out. This at least has a couple of very small changes to the core of Fighter and Wizard that are a little bit more interesting, and their subclasses are something. You know, I'm not blown away by reading this. You know, that's not my immediate impression. I'm reading this and I'm saying some people are making some very intentional choices, modifying specifically how often people hit and the damage out and the damage output in ways that are consistent and reliable. They're upping the amount of damage that comes out, which will inevitably speed up combats, and they're upping how often people hit, which reduces the disappointment in missing attacks. So I can see that these are pointed efforts to making combat more success oriented, I guess would be the word here. And otherwise they're and otherwise the rest of this is just opinion stuff. Like stunts, again, I wish these stunts would be available to people who aren't fighters. I mean, not who aren't fighters, who aren't specifically battle masters / weapon master. But, you know, if they're not going to make that decision, who am I? I'm just a reviewer. I think this is, again, in review, a better playtest packet than the first one. And I feel like they finally found their footing and are choosing a direction, which they have to, because their timeline is quick. So in respect to them aiming for something that is not only innovative and new and refreshing, but also compatible with their own content, that is also compatible with 5th edition content, that little sphere of what they're aiming for is very, very specific, and it's a very small box in terms of what they can change around without alienating the people who might use this. And I feel like the Project Black Flag is in such a weird spot to be moving forward with this and choosing not to make too many dramatic changes. It's like with oneD&D on the horizon and a clear competitor in terms of people's attention and a clear favorite in terms of people who play D&D at least, and are wishing to stay within the same ecosystem. Black Flag has a really hard job of being their audience's definitive version of a cleaned up, primmed and proper 5th edition, which is a hard sell because people have been using 5e for 10 years now. So I wish them luck. That's why I'm still covering this. And I believe that's everything. So thank you guys for listening in. I appreciate the familiar names in chat and the people who I haven't seen before. If you want me to keep covering this, just let me know. And feel free to send your play test feedback, which I believe is already open until March 3rd, like a week from now. It's not a very big window, but if you'd like to send your comments, please do so. Links in the description. Have a good night.